Game changers, game changers.
Hmm.
Welcome back to At the Desk with Dr. Qua, the podcast where transformation begins with conversation. Today, we're diving into the complex and inspiring work of district turnaround, what it means to lead change at scale, and how leadership decisions ripple through classrooms, communities, and, of course, schools. Today, I am joined by Dr. Gerald Fitzhugh II, Superintendent of Schools in Orange Township. With over 2 decades of experience as a teacher, principal, and district leader, Dr. Fitzhugh began his career at Dr. William H. Horton's Elementary before moving into leadership roles across Newark and Hoboken, including assistant superintendent and deputy superintendent. A champion of distributive leadership and high expectation for scholar achievement, he has successfully guided schools through transformative change. Dr. Fitzhugh also holds a doctorate from Seton Hall University, where his research focused on complex thinking within New Jersey's learning standards. His career is defined by a deep commitment to equity, scholar success, and the belief that every scholar can achieve at the highest level. Today, we will unpack what turnaround leadership looks like in action, the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the vision required to move an entire district forward. Let's get into it. Dr. Fitzhugh, welcome to the desk.
Good afternoon.
When we
Thank you for
talk,
having me.
thank you. I'm sorry for cutting you off. When we talk
So,
about turnaround, what does that really mean in the context of schools and districts? So I want Dr. Fitzhugh to just give us a brief background on his journey to the superintendency, and then we'll get into some Q&A with him.
it all began when I was a junior in undergrad. I give homage to my sister, who is a retired educator from the North Public Schools. She brought me to her classroom at Warren Street School. She was a pre-kindergarten teacher, and I saw her passion for pedagogy and practice, but more importantly, developmentally appropriate teaching and learning for the youngest learners under her charge. I will say this. I was going to go a different route in terms of the law
Hmm.
track, but coming into her classroom on several occasions, not only in the summer, but throughout the course of that particular year, it propelled me to want to be an educator in the classroom and provide supports to students
Hmm.
and make them pedagogically sound.
Okay.
So if you kind of take a walk through, the 5 years I was a classroom teacher, Dr. William H. Horton, I had two great principals that I served under when I was a teacher. It was Mrs. Rosemary Hughes and Mr. Roger Leone. As we all know, Roger Leone is the current superintendent of the North Public School District, a
Yes, yes.
visionary leader, as well as Mrs. Hughes, which was a visionary leader. And if I could have been a piece of the principal that they were, that
Mm,
means that the children would be winning as well. So a lot of their craft I took with me as I ascended to that work.
okay.
More importantly, I became an assistant principal at Dr. Horton, working under Mrs. Rosemary Hughes in her final year, and also Mrs. Kimberly Wright White. And so again, I'm taking sprinkles of their work with me as I then ascended to the principalship at Chancellor Avenue Annex in 2010.
Mm,
That school was a beacon of excellence. I felt that if we could just make adequate yearly progress, that means that we would be making leaps and bounds for our students holistically. And so, for the 2 years that I was at Chancellor Avenue, we were able to make the adequate yearly progress. And then I moved
mm-hmm.
over into Hoboken as a principal at Thomas G. Connors Elementary School. That was the last school I served as principal, and that school was a focus school, a
Mm-hmm.
school that has a lot of improvement. But again, as I shared, you take a lot of what you have learned from former leaders, your staff, right? Because your
Absolutely.
family, because ultimately all of those folks help create this melting pot of ideas, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not only ideas, but also reflected practice for a leader. So ultimately, I became assistant superintendent in Hoboken, followed by the deputy superintendency in Newark. And I'll share this with you. Just watching both my superintendent in Hoboken and my superintendent in Newark, I watched how they kind of navigated the community, how they navigated working with staff, students, and families. And I took a piece of both Dr. Johnson and Mr. Leone with me when I ascended to the superintendency within the North Public School. I'm sorry, within the Orange Public School District.
Okay. Okay. So as you can see, folks, I'm just gonna tell you now, this brother is intense, working till the very last second before we came on, right? So I've been trying to get this young man to like slow down, but I see the passion, and I'm sure you sense it just in his presentation. So, Doc, talk to me. What conditions led to the district being identified for turnaround?
So I'll share this with you. We have some of the greatest folks that work here in Orange Township. They are dedicated, they are strategic, they're intentional in their practice. Just yesterday, I was at one of our schools and I actually
Hmm.
went into a teacher enrichment success period. And I walked in and I listened to how they were identifying the indicators or look fors under the new Danielson 2022 model that we adopted.
Okay.
And I wanted to be part of the learning alongside one of the executive directors because I said, ultimately, I want to see if they agree with what my lens is as it relates to the different components and domains as it relates
Mm.
to Danielson 2022. We have now graduated from Danielson 2013, and now we are in the new Danielson model and collaborating with the instructional staff and having that reflective conversational piece is the
Hmm.
reason why we are making such leaps and bounds in our district.
Okay.
When I became superintendent, the mantra was good to great. But over the summer, I talked with key stakeholders throughout the course of the summer, and we talked a
Hmm.
lot about our district being one, right? One mission and optimal success. So if I can,
Okay.
I just want to share with you the mantra and also the mission and vision that has been updated, which aligns
Okay.
to our work, which is part of our strategic plan moving into greatness, which ends in 2026.
Okay.
We are many schools, one community, bound by a shared purpose and driven by a collective vision. Every student and staff member matters. Every voice counts. Every
Okay.
day is an opportunity to grow, lead, and inspire. With unity at our foundation and excellence as our goal, we rise together. One district, one vision, one future. Again, anything that
Okay.
we do in a district, it is a melting pot, right? So ultimately,
Hmm.
we have to have staff members, community members, our students, right? Our families, clergy. We have all these folks working in tandem with us to ensure that we are hitting all of our students and staff holistically to give them an
Okay.
experience like no other.
Nice. Nice. I like the direction you're going. So, in terms of the work that you've done and have been doing, right?
Mhm,
What does successful turnaround look like from both a systems and a student perspective?
mhm. This is twofold. So systematically, organization is critical, right? And
Hmm.
so as as you ascend into the superintendency, it is important that you have a pulse on what's going on in the district, but allowing the
Absolutely.
leaders to do the critical work that they were appointed to do, right? So
Hmm.
ultimately, you are looking for greatness in terms of craft, and you can also begin to provide them with the scaffolds in order for them to bring forth the vision. So the other day I was speaking with the law track class from Orange High School when we had our law track class inaugural dinner. And one thing I had shared with them is it's so important that we listen to everyone that's around us because there are different experiences that folks embark on, right,
Right.
within one melting pot. And so ultimately, listening and having those conversations with our students and our families are critical. So I'm going to kind of put it together in a nice box. We have district goals that
Hmm.
we have to adhere to and we have to obtain by the end of the school year. The
Right.
district goals support the work that is done within the strategic plan moving into greatness.
Okay.
So within the district goals, we talk about two important facets: having student council meetings at the superintendent's level, as well as parent council meetings at the superintendent's level. We do bi-weekly meetings, bi-monthly meetings with our students and monthly
Hmm.
meetings with our families. And at these meetings, we have the opportunity to not only talk about the academic structure, but also talk about the importance of the wellness of students and families and staff. But in addition,
Hmm.
we want to talk about what we can do to improve our practice right? And also move our students into a different trajectory pedagogically, but also remembering the importance of wellness and self-care.
Always keeping that at the forefront because that's critically important
Agreed.
in any organization. So you mentioned some of the key levers, right? Your staff, community, in terms of community trust, academic improvement, climate and culture. When you stepped into this role in this district, what immediate actions were necessary versus long-term strategies, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm hearing the work that you're doing currently, but
Mhm.
just kind of take us back to the beginning and kind
Mhm.
of bring us forward into the present. Because I want us to roll in that direction so that
Absolutely.
individuals aspiring to that seat can have
Mhm.
a sense of what the dynamics require of an individual
Mhm.
when you step into that role, right? So let's look at it from the standpoint of your immediate actions that we felt were necessary at the forefront,
Mhm.
and long-term strategies that you put in place that what's this, year 5 for you, right?
Going into year 7.
Year 7. Ooh, okay. I
Mhm.
miscalculated. So in the 7-year window, I'm sure some of your long-term elements we could also tap into as we engage in the conversation.
Mhm. So I inherited a great place with great folks, right? And I can't speak enough about what I inherited. The difference between then and now is that within 6 months of the superintendency, we had a
Mm-hmm.
global pandemic,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And so
you came in when it was hot.
absolutely, absolutely. And so the critical dynamic structure was so different, or the landscape was different, because ultimately the learning targets had to change because we went from sound instruction in the classroom setting to what? Teaching and
Virtual.
learning from Zoom or Google Meet, right? Or Microsoft Teams.
Mm,
And so ultimately, we had to, stop everything we were doing and create this virtual home instructional plan.
mm.
In any district that anyone needs to go to, the one thing and the one measure that's important is always do a needs assessment to see what are the critical levers that you need to tap into.
Absolutely.
Holistically, everyone will say that you should always never make like systemic change within the first year. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
take a pulse of what's going on as well. But remember, I came in July 1 and the world shut down in March,
Right.
the end of February, early March of 2020. So we had to kind of put a pause on the work that we were doing because we were trying to ensure the health and safety primarily of our
Mm-hmm.
students, but more importantly, trying to figure out this new normal as it relates to teaching and learning from the virtual lens via a platform, right?
Mm.
We initially thought, and I know Dr. Santa, you were principal in Plainfield at the time. We were all on the phone talking about what are you doing? What are you doing to kind of navigate through this
Oh
time
yeah.
period? Right? But initially, when I walked into the superintendency, all I wanted to do was look at where my special education students were. What were the
Mm-hmm.
percentage of students that are bilingual ESL who were in the programs and
Right.
were able to enter and exit within a certain
Mm-hmm.
trajectory? But more importantly, what were the data trends holistically from past data sources,
Right.
right? So because then that would be the lever for us to create professional development opportunities for the district. So
Okay.
again, there wasn't much substantial change in the beginning because ultimately I wanted to see what folks were doing because I had to learn them and they had to learn my style, so on and so forth. Um, and so I think that ultimately the needs assessment is the critical
Mm-hmm.
piece, kind of thinking through the data where that lived. Um, and that's what it was. It was really looking at the data, trying to create professional development opportunities that were differentiated and targeted so that folks that had to be boots on the ground teaching students had a playbook on how they could instruct students pedagogically moving forward.
Okay.
So if you kind of fast forward to the end of that year and going into the next year, if you recall, we didn't even
Hmm.
have NJSLA during like the first 2.5 years, 3 years of my superintendency, right? And
Okay.
so then you're trying to get back into the realm of, well, there was extreme learning loss, so trying to get the kids back acclimated to that work.
Oh yeah.
School districts were again going part-time, and we were had to make sure we put kids on schedules. We have
Hmm.
buddy systems, things of that
Right.
nature, all the stuff that we didn't even know existed, but we had to figure it out. And we had a great commissioner of education who gave us the levers to kind of try to figure it through and had virtual meetings with us and things of that nature. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so there were so many folks that, you could tap into. You have folks that were here that we had conversations, but also having those folks outside as well and listen to their experiences. You could say, oh, well, I'm dealing with that, but did you think
Mm-hmm.
about this? And then that kind of pushback conversation or dialogue, if you will, reflective practice, allowed for us as a group of pedagogues to kind of figure this thing called the pandemic through. But it wasn't just the pedagogy and practice. This is when the wellness, more of the ACE work, adverse
Mm-hmm.
childhood experiences, all that kind of stuff came form. And I had parents who would talk to us about ACEs in particular. And I admitted to them, I said, I never even thought that this was going to be a thing,
Hmm.
but it was a thing, right?
All
Because
right.
ultimately, the things that were happening that we did not even know were happening until we were in the midst of a pandemic. Like, think this through. You have folks that were having so much difficulty at home, right?
Mm.
We didn't know because we were probably having difficulty at home as well. And we still had to get in front of the
Absolutely.
Zoom camera and we had to lead, right? We
Mm-hmm.
had to be those champions of education during those difficult times. And so resiliency was important and during those times.
Absolutely.
And I do think that it was something that a lot of folks learned as it related
Mm-hmm.
to our work as part of the needs assessment that had to be conducted within the first year of the superintendency.
So that you walked into a situation where we were flying the plane and building it simultaneously. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, those were adventurous times because of the fact that everybody was going through it at the same time.
At
It
the same
wasn't
time.
something that, hey, let me check with Asante to find out what he did when this happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Asante was going through it, Fitzhugh was going through it, so and so was going through it. So yeah, that was
Mm-hmm.
those were interesting times and days we went through. So with
Right.
respect to that, so you walked into a situation where you were trying to do a needs assessment to gauge where your starting point was going to be, and then the world shut down and flipped everything around. Right. So now
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of come back and do things a little differently and look at it from a different lens. When we talk about engaging stakeholders, right? Because you had to engage them in the process of the pandemic, and also, your scholars as well as your teachers and district families, right? When we look at it, how were you able to build the buy-in for the difficult but necessary changes that needed to take place? Like, was there anything unique or special that you did to gain that trust and for folks to buy in, or was it the case that the circumstances lend itself to folks willing to buy into, hey, we're all in this together, let's roll our boats in the same direction and make it work?
I actually wrote that down on my paper, all in this together. As
Okay.
you were saying it, I was scripting it, right? So in late January and early February of 2020, as you know, I had shared the importance of the strategic plan and how we were creating it. We were
Right.
having my executive team and we all led workshops um, creating the strategic plan alongside Cree Strategies, who were our consultant who assists us with the creation of moving into greatness. We had hundreds of parents coming into these meetings, right? And
Mm,
so they had the opportunity to tell us what they thought predicated on the data, because we gave them everything, right? And we
okay.
wanted them to tell us what their interpretations were and what we could do to leverage and create better opportunities for their children.
Okay.
They can touch us here in Orange. We do have an email which we created during the pandemic, which is reopening of schools, one word, at orange.k12.nj.us. And we kept that reopening email open, and it's currently being used to this day
Really
because parents have
nice.
questions, right? And we have to be able to give them in the now
Okay.
information that they are seeking, whether it be about registration, whether it be about transcripts, whether it be a question about uniforms. They know they can tap into the district and get a response within 24 hours. Sometimes it is certainly before 24 hours. And we've
Okay, that's
learned
great.
that
That's great.
absolutely, and they know that we can touch them, right? So ultimately, if families know that they can see their superintendent at a school, or they see me at the opening of a school day or the end or throughout the course of the day, I always say this: you cannot leave from 451 Lincoln Avenue. You have to leave from the schoolhouse. It's
Absolutely.
important, right, that you are boots on the ground with your folks. The
Mm-hmm.
teachers, the paraprofessionals, security, food service, nurses, social workers, guidance counselors, they do a tremendous job to uphold our children with fidelity, and
Absolutely.
also they have a hold
Absolutely.
of each other. And so I make a point to go to schools every day. I also make a point to know everyone in our township public school district by name, because they deserve that respect. They deserve the
Absolutely.
respect because they do that critical work every single day. And so, what I've learned from the pre-pandemic was when we were doing the town hall meetings with the strategic plan,
Mm-hmm.
we took that model and we did town hall meetings during the course of the pandemic so that we could do updates to families,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So that families knew what was happening, not only instructionally, but our plan for health and safety, particularly when we came in with a hybrid approach to teaching and learning, because ultimately they wanted to know if their children were going to be safe. How many inches from um, Kwame's desk will Gerald be, and so on and so
Right.
forth. And
Right.
so we had to have simulations in our return to schools booklet, so they felt
Mm-hmm.
comfortable and trusted us to send their
Okay.
children to school. Was it a hard time? Absolutely, because everybody was dealing with it. However,
Everybody
the town hall
was.
meetings helped. Yeah.
Brother, so you said something that I in my business of coaching leaders and talking to leaders and mentoring, visibility, right? I think oftentimes higher leadership, when I say higher leadership, individuals in the superintendency, I'm sorry, they think that leadership is just doing the schmoozing, right? We
Mhm,
do the political piece and we call it a
mhm,
day, but it is critically important for them to, in essence, inspect what they expect, right? But
mhm,
by physically being in the building. Don't go by what you're hearing from, oh, so and
mhm,
so said this, and you're calling and admonishing the principal. But when you go into these buildings, you see firsthand the challenges, the successes, and those things that, okay, I need to provide additional resources and support here to elevate this building and this school and this team to where I need them to be. So I love the fact that you spend so much of your time being in the buildings and being visibly present within the district on a daily basis. I know you and I have had conversation about aspects of it, slowing down on certain aspects, but I love the fact that that's a point of emphasis with your leadership. And so I applaud you for that. And I encourage other superintendents to make it a business of not leading from the office, right? Because as I tell building admin, you can't do anything from the office. Working from the office means that nobody sees you or knows you. When you make your presence known in the building and they see you in the classrooms and in the hallways, it makes a world of difference in elevating what you're expecting to see happen manifest. So I applaud you, brother. So let's continue. So we talk about all of these things that you're putting in place. How are you measuring success? What data points matter most? Is it student achievement, attendance, behavior, graduation rate, teacher retention? And how do you celebrate,
mhm.
those small wins while keeping focus on the long term goals?
Transparency, I think, is very important in telling the good, the not so good, and how we're
Mm-hmm.
going to get the not so good into being good, right? And
Right.
so graduation rates out since you brought it up, I'll start with that. Um, at current, we're at about 98%. Um, that's our graduation rate from this past school year. Every
Okay.
year,
Congrats.
we,
Congrats.
I mean, I'm proud of the work of the
Hey,
counselors
listen,
and the
I know
administrators, and yeah.
places where 90 is they're nowhere near 90, right? And it's
Mhm.
a struggle getting scholars to finish within that 4 year window. So I applaud you and your team for
Yeah.
95%. That's high. That's high, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
But I do think that the reason why it's happening is because of the relationships that are built within our schools from not only the administrators but the teachers, and from teachers and counselors. Everybody works in essence to ensure that students have what they need, right?
The
And
village.
so right. So you know, it was a TED talk that came out many moons ago, and it talked about students don't learn from teachers that they do not like.
Oh, you
I
talk
always
about my girl,
the
champion,
late.
being a champion for scholars. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Her name is
And I also
escaping me.
think
I just
too,
saw something with her too. Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah, and the power that that statement has. But so I turn it into, kids don't come to school if they don't feel loved and appreciated, right? And
Mm,
so it's important. And I watch, right? I watch when I come in. I may come in the back door, side door, and I watch how our folks give love to folks, to our kiddos, right? It
mm-hmm,
doesn't matter whatever position you hold. It all starts from that place of love, and kids feel that they're loved. They're gonna come to school every day. We have
mm-mm.
been tracking attendance for the last 6 years. So I'm now entering year 7. So looking at the attendance, we don't go below 95% every month,
Right.
right? We've been on this some years ago, yes, right? But I think as we have been going through the whole attendance team protocol, so on and so forth, we're
Mm-hmm.
sending blasts out. Attendance matters, even from pre-kindergarten all the way to grade 12. It is so important to speak the importance of attendance, because ultimately, if kids are missing half days, let's say they miss a half a day 10 times in a marking cycle, in their
Wow.
core classes in the beginning of the day, that's
Mm-hmm.
problematic.
Absolutely. Because that's a
Because
lot of
we build.
instruction being missed out on.
Absolutely. And you're building on prior knowledge. So if you keep
Abs-
missing the morning session, or even if it's the afternoon session with the schedule and you're leaving
mm-hmm.
early, there's going to be gaps, right? That's going to take place. So I do
Yes.
have to applaud the attendance teams here in district that have had conversations with families about, no, 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 we're not going to pick them up at 1 o'clock. No, we're not going to do that. We can't do it because we need our scholars to be in school every single day. The work through the teacher enrichment success periods allows for our staff to create targeted intentional centers and
Mm,
review of data points, etc. I always say, if you walk out with something that you can
right.
utilize in your center of interest that is differentiated for your learners under your charge, then that means we're winning, right? And
Okay.
so
Okay.
as I went to a test period, I test is short for teacher enrichment success period. When I went to
Okay.
a test the other day and I listened to um, the leadership in this one particular school about really digging into the data and talking about and looking at diagnostic data and talking about
Mm-hmm.
how the data impacts on a bird's eye view. So you're looking holistically what it looks like. And then what the principal now wants to do is take those large nuggets and break it down into standards and skills. So when they walk out, then they have a plan for your low, middle, and high students.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
That's
that is,
good.
I guess, the genesis of the work that is allowing us to kind of see dividends. Again, you do have to take heed to your subgroups. So
Always.
our demographic
Always.
has certain themes, right? Right. And so you have to make sure that you're preparing for not only your gen ed population, but you also have to prepare for your bilingual ESL as well as your special
Yes.
needs population.
Yep.
And within your special needs population, there are a lot of varying learning styles within. You can have MALCOG who are DLM aligned, or you can have
Mm-hmm.
students who are LLD who will take
Hmm.
the NJSLA, right? That may have extended time, but you have to teach them the vehicle how to utilize the extended time to their
Right.
benefit. And that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Slowing down and reviewing those questions and those strategies where they could annotate text or they can look at those distractors, so on and so forth. But again, it's not teaching to the test, it is providing students with strategies for learning holistically for their learning style.
And I think people oftentimes make the error of thinking that having scholars practice what they may be exposed to is
Right.
teaching to the test. And I'm like, no, if this is what I'm going to be judged on, I need some practice so that I can get better, right? So that when I see it, I'm not surprised. It's not a what is this, right? I've never been
Mhm.
exposed. So that exposure is beneficial to scholars. Utilizing the time frames. If it's 15 minutes, let them know what 15 minutes feels like, right? Don't
Right.
go when 15 minutes are up. Who needs more time? You don't get to have extra time, unless you're a sped scholar who has extended time. Your gen ed
Absolutely.
scholars do not. So that's critically important that you have mechanisms in place that are providing those opportunities for scholars. So talk to me about how you celebrate the successes the small wins and the as you prepare for the big wins. How are you celebrating these successes that you've encountered so far to date?
So every September, the beginning of September, we have a convocation in Orange Preparatory Academy of Inquiry and Innovations Auditorium. I think that talking at during a convocation isn't the way I want to do things. I used to talk so much about this and that and the third during the convocation, and I would watch the mannerisms of staff um, as well. And so I kind of picked up and learned that we have to celebrate right from the beginning so that
Right.
it allows folks to say, you know what, I can do this. I can come
Mm-hmm.
here and I can do this. And so my team, led by the executive director of innovation, she has done a great job with kind of leading the effort with the convocation. We have gone from my long PowerPoint slides
Uh
to,
oh. Uh
and I may
oh.
write a whole, right? I may write a long Canva presentation, PPT. I may write a long thing, but then I get there the morning of, and I watch the excitement as people are coming in, and we do roll calls. We celebrate, those folks that have been in the district 10, 15, 20,
Mm-hmm.
25, 30, so on and so
Longevity
forth.
has
This
its
year,
place.
longevity have this place. We had one of our staff members who retired a year and a half ago. She was actually in the audience this year, and I want to give her flowers. She was
Oh no.
a paraprofessional in this district for over 50 years. She's a
Wow.
staple. She was at two
Wow.
other district schools, and I said I had to stop. I had to give her flowers when I started the convocation this year because
Nice.
ultimately this person, and I don't want to call names because I don't want to embarrass anybody without their permission, but this person is like a staple in Orange Township, and she loved on these kids and loved on the staff, and everybody knows her, right? And
Mm,
so, in hearing her journey through her time here as a paraprofessional, it taught me a lot about her drive and want for kids to be great. And
right.
because of folks like her and her longevity, kids can come back, our kiddos can come back and say, you know what, I remember so and so because she
Mm-hmm.
was with me when I was in kindergarten and she didn't
Wow.
forget my name, right? And so I think those are the biggest important pieces that we want to take with us and celebrate our staff. You know, the convocation was great. We celebrated. We had schools that had their own themes, and they had to really shout their schools out, right?
Okay.
And I think it's
Okay.
important to do that critical work because ultimately folks have to appreciate where they are. I tell folks all the time, thank you for choosing us and staying with us,
Mm,
right? Because folks can go and move on.
no doubt. And other people are offering them bonus signing
Yeah.
checks.
But our folks, the folks now are staying with us. Um, I mean, we've even announced at the convocation and also at the September board meeting,
Mm-hmm.
we were down to like 7 vacancies. This time last year, we were like in the 50s.
Wow.
So, right. So we're doing some really great things. But in addition, we have a great partnership. And I will say this, boards of education are partners in the work. And I have to say, I'm blessed to have a really great board because ultimately they may see something and say, you know what, this is a good idea. Let's talk about it and see how we can. And this is all in committee. Let's see how we
Oh,
can
that's
implement
good.
this practice and craft right in our school district. If I can share, the we are a Verizon Bill's Digital Promise School District.
Wow.
5 of my
Okay.
schools, right, are part of this consortium.
Mm,
So this week we are hosting the Verizon Digital Promise Bill's work here in the Orange Township Public School District. We have
nice.
folks coming
Nice.
from around the country, and they're here, and they did tours of our schools today. We have their coaches camp is actually being conducted here in Orange Township, but also at a hotel about 20 minutes away. Our student
Nice.
tech team in the morning, they are going to present to groups of coaches and administrators and superintendents in the morning.
Wow. Wow. That's
You know,
impressive,
when I
brother.
tell right, when I tell
Congratulations,
you,
man. But that's a testament to your leadership.
I will say that my team, right, they
Mm-hmm.
did their numbers, right? And I will say this person I will embarrass. I did have a board member, Miss Sue Ann Graves Sandy. She, you know, she was one day she called me, she said, I have this idea and I just want to talk it through a bit with you. And when she told me to go online and to look at it, I said, Verizon Bill's digital promise. I said, hmm. And then I brought my team together. I said, we can do this, we can do this. And the team got together and we were able to accomplish the goal. Currently, we have 5 schools that are part of the
Mm-hmm.
consortium. We began with 3 schools. They actually came with 3 of our schools today, which was Orange High School, led by Principal Belton, Oakwood Avenue Community School, led by Mr. Dana Gaines, and Orange Preparatory Academy of Inquiry and Innovation, which is led by Ms. Carrie Halstead. And
Mm.
what I found to be so powerful is that not only were the principals able to articulate um, but their leadership team from their digital promise coach, which is in our schools, and also our
Mm-hmm.
tech coordinators, alongside our student leaders who are tech team students,
Oh,
they were able
nice.
to explain the experience and how they built this academy of greatness in all of those 3 schools. And it wasn't us telling them what to do, it was us building this together. And also the tech teams and the technology coordinators and the bills digital promise coaches that are in our schools working together with our IT manager and our executive director of innovation, myself. It has been a plethora of folks coming together in a consortium to really move this digital age into prominence. Because guess what, Dr. Sante, we know that artificial intelligence is coming or is
It's
here,
coming.
and we want to kind of
But
teach our,
forget
our
coming. It's
scholars how to
here.
do it. It's here,
It's
right?
here.
And so we back when I was writing my dissertation in 2017 and 2018, my chair of my committee, Dr. Christopher Tinkin, said to me, you gotta talk through and think through the digital age with artificial intelligence. And
Okay.
he sat me down and said, think of it this way. If you ever watch the Jetsons, that's going to be the world in a few years.
We're halfway there. We're
And we're
halfway there.
halfway there.
Because we thought it was far fetched, and these guys are so out of their mind with that whole, floating. You got drones flying from city to city, with
Agreed.
manned drones, because I know there's some innovative stuff going on in other parts of the globe that we'll tackle some other time. But one of the things I love hearing you say is the fact that you have such a beautiful collaborative partnership with your board. And
Mm-hmm.
in addition to that, I like the fact that you are affording members on your team who see something and say, hey, you know what? I think we could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That flexibility, because sometimes leaders have a tendency to want to my way or the highway, or my way is the only way that matters. And
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing is that you are affording members of your team and individuals who are associated with the organization the opportunity to bring to light something that they see as a potential win for your district.
Right.
And so I love hearing about that piece
Mm-hmm.
and that whole. So right now we've been screaming and kind of talking about more so the successes, right? I want
Mm-hmm.
to kind of tackle some leadership challenges, personal
Mm-hmm.
challenges that you have faced in the turnaround work, and how are you balancing urgency with patience, right? So share with us some of your struggles, some of the challenges that you've encountered, because you started, pandemic hits, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like everything's been gravy and smooth sailing, but I know, right? There's been challenges. What are some of the
Mm-hmm.
challenges that you've encountered on this journey to turning this district from great or from good to great?
So I think that nothing is perfect, right? And so you do have, and I'll talk about myself because I want folks to learn, right? And so what I've learned in the last maybe since April, I'll say from April, pace, right? You got to pace yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, if you map it out, so if you were to come into my office, you would see like these charts. And on these charts, I have these timelines, milestones, and mileposts. And
Mm-hmm.
I have them because I have this thing where I want everything to be finished by the end of the day because I then have to go and start the next day knowing that all that stuff on my plate was completed. Well, that's not the reality all the time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I've had to learn that it's okay to say, I got to stop at 5:45 and I can pick up at 7:30 the next day and it's going to be okay,
Right. Right.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is hard when you want to make sure that everybody has what they need and that you're building teams and building capacity and things of that nature. But everybody needs refreshment and rest. And so
Absolutely.
I have learned, and I told my administrators at the end of last year, that I'm going to work my hardest not to keep emailing throughout the course of the weekend. So what I do now is I
Don't get
set
me
it
on that.
as a
Don't get me on that
yeah,
email stuff.
yeah, I try very hard. So I do a schedule send. So
Okay.
so I said to myself, doing a schedule send does not give people agita when they see it binging if it's on their iPhone or it's on their Apple Watch or something, so on and so
Right.
forth. But it took me some time to understand this part of me. And it's
Okay.
okay that you could stop at 5:45 and pick up again at 7:30 in the morning. There are going to be experiences where you can't stop at 5:45, but
Understandable.
ultimately it's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be okay with being okay that you can stop, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes absolute sense. How many conversations have we had about that whole dynamic? Like,
Even
turn off the
yesterday.
phone. Turn off the phone. Shut it
Even
down, right?
yesterday. Yep.
Yep. Yep. So
So I will confess that to the people. I will say to the folks that are watching, the one thing that I have started, not started, but I've been enjoying is my walk runs every day. I
mm-hmm.
leave my home, I go to my late parents' house, I piddle around and I leave there and I take a long way home. And I do that because it gives me, even if it's raining, I still go out and do it because it
Right.
gives me that opportunity to have that minute just to have peace. So if
And
I could tell
everybody,
anybody watching, have peace.
absolutely. And I think
Mhm,
everybody needs that downtime, not focus on the work, but on
mhm,
self. And just
mhm.
let things marinate and process through that walk or whatever activity gives you some alone time to be able to just let things settle in, right? And I think
Agreed.
that's great. And I know that for those of you who don't know, we refer to this young man as the youngest in charge because he's part of a team of brothers, and of course he's the youngest joker in the group, and he's the leader of a beautiful district that he's trying to make things work for. So talk to me about the balance between urgency and patience,
Right.
right? Talk to me about that.
So you have to prioritize, as you said, the small pieces and then the
Mm-hmm.
large pieces. And so ultimately, we want our students at the secondary level to leave prepared to compete with their like peers, whether it be in Orange Township or throughout the state, country, nationally, so on and so forth. That's a big thing for me. I don't want our
Okay.
students to have less than. I want them to be able to get into the Harvards, which we've had, to get into the MITs, which we've had, the HBCUs, which we've had, right?
Good.
To have scholarships that range between 18 to $30 million and above. We've done that, right? And so we have done some really great work, but it's only because we're listening to one another about the needs and concerns, right?
Okay.
Even, and I'll use athletics as the example, as another example. I spoke to two of my scholars back in late August. Actually, the date was August 22nd, 2025. And they had asked me to have a student athlete, I'm sorry, a student athlete consortium, like a
Mm-hmm.
melting place where we can have conversations about academics, but also athletics and how they should marry, so on and so forth. I almost said the
Okay.
student's name, but so I went to the school at the beginning of this week, and I had shared with the principal two of the students that spoke to me that I need part of this work that we're having on Friday at Orange High
Mm-hmm.
School. And as I was walking out the building, who did I run into? One of the two students. And I explained to her that I listened and
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have the like the melting pot conversation so that you can come up with, we're going to talk to you about what we see, and then we also want to hear what you see and how we can improve our practices as a
Mm-hmm.
group of adults, but also you guys being partners in our decision making, so on and so forth.
Nah, that's
And the
beautiful. I
student
like
said
that.
to me, yeah, the student said, you didn't forget. I said, uh-uh, I don't forget. When my kiddo says something to me, I have this notebook. No, it's in my bag. So it's in the other room, but I have a notebook and I write it in this notebook. And I wanted to make sure that I did not forget what our scholar had asked us to do for them because they
Nah, that's
wanted to have
good.
a real conversation. And I thought that, before we do anything else, like moving anything else this school year, I have to have this conversation with them. I feel that I've been with these kids since some of them were in elementary school. Most of them
Right.
were in elementary school, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I see them and they have questions, it's not as if they don't know who their superintendent is or that they know that I care. They just want to have that minute of conversation. And I don't care how busy I am. I put the kids and staff before the paperwork. The paperwork will be there, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to make sure that you listen to the folks that are going to be the consumers of the craft that you are trying to build here within our school district.
Absolutely.
Mhm,
Absolutely. They are the reasons why we are there. Full
mhm.
stop. Full stop. So as I'm
Agree.
peeking at the time behind you, we are approaching that 60-minute window. So talk to me a little bit, your vision forward. What's next for the district? What's next for the district?
I will say this. I would love to be a full Verizon Digital Promise District. We
Okay.
did apply, right? I presented this out. We did apply. We're now in round three.
Okay.
Um, Next up is the walkthroughs of all of the last five facilities. So I would love that to be part of this work because ultimately the students in grades 3 through 12, they will have a device where we have Wi-Fi embedded. And also the
Oh,
teachers in
nice.
those grade levels, right? They'll also have the same type of device as well. Because again, we
Okay.
want to equip them with what they need to be successful as well. We already have a Beacon Blue Ribbon School of Excellence, which is Forest Street / Annex Community School. We've now
Mm-hmm.
opened up Forest Annex as of September 2nd. So I'm excited that we've now put together yet another K through 2 building under the
Okay.
leadership of Dr. Yanceska Lofton Cook and her team. I do want to just preface by saying when we came up with the idea, I talked with the principal about it at length. Then we went in and we announced the decision to the staff and just listening and having a town hall conversation with the staff, you know, allowed us to kind of think through what that would look like. We put
Okay.
in this K-2 building a makerspace lab, right? Because we are
Oh,
a STEM focused district, and I thought it'd be really good and really cool to have that kind of experience for them. And I remember the
nice.
executive director of STEM focused learning saying to me, having a focused makerspace lab for students at KP2 is going to build the STEM kind of focus for the students as they leave the KP2 building and then work their way up to 3 through 7 in that particular building. But the caveat is we're going to bring the kids to the annex building in 3 through 7 so they have that experience as well. So again,
Nice.
this just wasn't an I kind of thought. It was the principal. It was the executive director of STEM focused learning. And I do want to say that the STEM focused learning supervisor of STEM, Mr. Metwali, he was instrumental in putting together that lab with fidelity. He knew
Mm.
what to order. He knew, you know, how to kind of navigate those pieces. And he was at the table with us to make sure that we did it in such a way that it would impact students in K through 2. When all the materials came, it was Mr. Matwali who put the whole entire lab together,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so I shout out my folks because I want folks to know that ultimately we have these ideas, but we bring everybody to the table. And
Okay.
it's has been that way since I become superintendent in this district. I don't talk about what happened before me. I talk about since I've been there. And I say this in just because I feel that parents come into our council meetings, parents, students having their council meetings with us, having our teachers at the events and having conversations with us about what they see, because they're boots on
Mm-hmm.
the ground, our counselors, our security personnel, our food service, our nurses. Everybody has a voice. And as I read Moving into Greatness, everybody's voice is emulated within the words of our strategic plan as well as our district goals. And as we move forward, I want that to continue
Mm-hmm.
as well. Look, do we want our data to always be stellar? Yes. Are we moving towards that area? Yes. I think about our AP scores when they had dropped a bit, and I was so discouraged. And then as we, change some of our modalities instructionally, when Orange High School this year, last year they were at 37% holistically, and then we opened the results this year. They're 61% and some change. That means
Nice.
that those are some wins that we were able to see like in the moment, predicated on
Okay.
instructional
Okay.
changes that we made. In addition, at STEM Academy, we went from about 52% of students who scored 3 and above to over 82% this past school year. So
Nice.
it takes the
Nice.
village, right, Dr. Sante, to make those
Yes.
systemic changes. Um, but it also is important that we're in the classrooms looking at the craft and giving critical feedback to our folks to ensure that the instructional pedagogy and practice pieces are being upheld with fidelity.
Absolutely.
Some folks don't want to tell, the challenges, but I have to report out the challenges because is every piece of the puzzle at 100% at this point? No. Are we going to get there? Absolutely, because we have a group of folks that do the work, care about children, and care about their craft. When I go to Haywood Avenue's back school night in just a little bit, I'm going to see families all over the place asking critical questions about not only achievement, but the self-care components, and, as well as wellness. And how are we melting all of that into the school
Mm-hmm.
day? How are we doing our faculty meetings to ensure that we're having wellness there? So again, we're looking at all those component pieces, and that's how we're building this space where we're moving the district to optimal success.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome work. Awesome conversation. But before I let you go, what advice do you want to offer to other
Mhm.
leaders facing turnaround context elements like this?
Listen, reflect,
Critical piece.
right? Right? Listen, reflect, and take the emotionality out of your decision making.
Great
You become
advice.
skewed when the emotionality is there. So you just want to make sure that you stick to the data and the facts, and then listen to those that are boots on the ground, because ultimately we all have to be partners in this work. And as I close that piece of the conversation, there's no I in team, there is we, because all of us are stakeholders in moving students forward pedagogically and socially emotionally.
Dr. Fitzhugh, thank you so much for joining us. Uh, Game changers. I think this was a great conversation to hear from a leader who's gone through the process of turning around the district. And so that wraps it up for today's conversation on district turnaround and transformative leadership. I want to extend my thanks to Dr. Fitzhugh for sharing his journey, his strategies, his vision for what's possible when leadership is rooted in equity, courage, and collaboration. Leading a district through change is never easy. You and I know that. I've done it with the building. You've done it on the grander scale with the whole district. And it requires not only systems and structures, but also trust, resilience, and the relentless focus on scholars. If you found today's episode insightful, be sure to subscribe to At the Desk with Dr. Qua so that you don't miss the upcoming conversations with leaders who are shaping the future of education. And as always, I love to hear from you. What does leadership for transformation look like in your context? Until next time, remember transformation begins with conversation. Dr. Fitzhugh, thank you for being here. I
Thank you, my
appreciate you.
brother. Thank you, thank you.
And to my audience, believe it or not, Dr. Fitzhugh's conversation is the final episode for season 1. We will be coming back with season 2 starting in January. So definitely make sure you subscribe In the meantime, we'll do our recorded episodes and drop them. So make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss out on upcoming episodes of At the Desk with Dr. Qua. Fitzhugh, my man, the youngest in charge, we appreciate you joining us at the desk. I hope it was equally informative and enlightening for you as well. Love you, brother. Wish you all the
You back.
best. And I will see you around. Game changers, take care. Be well. Peace.